Jodi.
And Lily.
Hi. We're talking about how to feel better instantly. How to feel better instantly because there's so many emotions that we feel every day. And people ask me all the time, like, how do I deal with this? What do I do with this? How do I do it? Because really we think if we have any negative emotions that we must be doing something wrong. This is the culture that we live in. We think if we feel a regular human response to a situation that we're doing something wrong if it's negative. I don't know. I think we think that we're supposed to feel good and happy all the time and not ever. We're like too evolved to ever feel sad or upset or worried or which are normal human responses to our world. And we were having a conversation last week and we were talking about those memes that are how to feel better instantly. And it lists all these negative feelings that people have. And then it has these little tips of what you can do to respond or to shift your energy. And we thought, well, I guess it was my idea. Sorry, I hit the mic. I guess it was my idea, but I thought that we could do a whole show on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just remember I was cleaning out my camera roll and there was a thing from like middle school that was like, if you're, I don't know, what was the one that it was like, if you feel like the world, if you feel like,
You should have looked at this before.
I was like, if you feel like the world hates you,
Oh, yeah.
eat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Eat something. And then it was like, if you feel like you hate yourself, take a shower. And I was like, that always works. Like I think we were driving home from school and I was like, that always works. So if I like sometimes I just like feel gross. Obviously a shower will help with that, but like mentally too. And then I'll be like out of the shower, be like, ooh, like yeah, it feels
Feel
good.
clean, you feel different.
And
Really,
yeah.
that shifts energy.
Yeah. So then we were like, oh well, what else would work?
Yeah. So we kind of made a list of things that when you feel negative, obviously there's a lot of things you could do when you're feeling any feelings. The first thing I really want you to do before you do any of these things is have compassion for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have compassion for yourself and you're judging yourself for having the negative feelings, you are going to get lost and deeper into the negative feelings. But if you have compassion for yourself, because you're like, yes, I get it. That just happened to me. Of course, I feel that way. And sometimes you're like, well, I don't even know why I feel so bad, or maybe I'm overreacting, or you feel funky when nothing's happened. That's normal too, because sometimes it just is like you're bored, or you are hungry, or you're tired, or you're feeling a little burnout and you feel negative, but there's no obvious trigger. It's kind of an overall kind of overwhelmed with life kind of thing. And we judge ourselves really harshly for that instead of having compassion, even if there's not a known trigger. It's just like kind of an overall stress. Sometimes I don't even know what stresses me out, but when I really sit and think about it, I find that there is a trigger.
Yeah, and then it always like immediately makes me feel better when I come up with the trigger, as if I need like an excuse.
Yeah.
Like sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, why am I so angry? Like, why am I upset? And then I'm like, oh, it's probably this, and I'm like, oh, I feel better. But I feel like
I think
it
that's
should be
pretty.
okay to just like be upset sometimes.
Yes. What happens is because I see this a lot with people is when they're upset and they don't know why, they feel so powerless because it feels really out of control not to know why.
Yeah, that's why.
And so it adds to the feeling. It adds to our self-judgment, but it also adds to the worry and anxiety because it's like, why? And what's wrong with me? Something's wrong with me. And so that is the reason why not knowing makes you feel worse often. And sometimes people come to me and they say, I'm sad out of the blue. And we very quickly find a time that something happened that is leading to all that, or most likely they have 5 things going on in their life that are highly stressful. Any of those one things could cause it. And they're still saying, I don't know why I'm so sad, or I don't know why I'm so anxious. I'm like, any one of those things could be the sole reason to have this much stress in your life.
That's the
and
other
they're
thing.
like,
It feels like, oh, that wasn't that big of a deal.
it's like such a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like your daughter's graduating from high school. Like, that is a big deal. Your firstborn. I mean, it's a big deal. So But we underestimate how heavy things are sometimes because we expect so much from ourselves. I think our high expectations really make us feel horrible. And when you feel better instantly when you lower those expectations.
Also, sometimes I overreact at small things. And so then I'm like, well, I reacted really big to this, so I must have, if it really bothered me, like a real issue or like
there's something
that's
else
bigger,
there. There's something else must
then I'm
be
like,
under
oh,
it.
if I didn't react, like I didn't really cry about this, so it must not really bother me. But it impacts, I feel like sometimes like heavier issues impact me in different ways as opposed to like some small inconvenience in the day will like upset me more.
Well, sometimes sometimes that happens because it's like a straw that breaks the camel's back, or sometimes there's underlying stress that's going on. And so this one thing causes you to fall apart. Or if you're hungry or you're really extra tired or you're just have no bandwidth, that can make your response to some event completely different than it would be at a different time.
Yeah.
And we have to have allowances for ourselves for that. We have to have a lot of compassion for ourselves that sometimes we're going to respond big and sometimes small to big stuff because of what kind of emotional bandwidth we have in those moments. And that's totally human. Totally human.
Yeah.
But wow.
Well,
people don't give
anyways.
themselves those allowances, but if you do, you will feel better because if you give
It's probably making a lot of noise.
if you give yourself compassion, if you give yourself compassion, it makes a huge difference in how fast you feel better. So let's just go through a list of some of the negative things that we wrote down. Lily's got her notebook. Some of the negative things, we're both list people. So funny.
There's lists everywhere. When I'm home, I just list. I don't even, do you cross everything off?
Yeah.
I cross some stuff off and then I'm just like find it a week later and be like, oh, that was, I guess I did that one.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it like helps me to write it down and then I'll
always,
remember
right.
it.
You're right. I find sometimes I go a couple days without writing a list and I'm just doing stuff.
Yeah.
And then I find the list from a few days ago. Yeah. And some of the stuff is done and not crossed
Honestly,
out.
if you're feeling overwhelmed, write a list. That's number one on the list. It's not even written down.
Well,
is it on the list? Oh, yeah, it is. It is.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, write everything down so it gets clear. It's probably less than you think. When you're looking at the big picture stuff, it's really nice to write little steps for yourself on what to do first, because it just seems a lot less overwhelming when you don't have to do the whole thing. All you have to do is the steps that you could do today.
Do you ever write down stuff you've already done?
Oh, yes, 100%. Guilty. Yeah. It feels so good to cross it out. Why not get that pleasure?
Yeah. Or I'll break
it doesn't hurt anybody.
I'll break stuff up into smaller things. Like, it'll be like empty the dishwasher. It'll be like open the dishwasher. Done. Anyways.
Yeah. You know what? If it makes you feel good and doesn't hurt anybody, write it down and cross it right back out. So what? Okay. I mean, there's a million worse things.
There are worse things you could do.
There are worse things.
Let me tell you.
Let's tell you that. All right. Okay. If you're slap happy, no. Okay. So if you're sad, I said make something, because it shifts energy to get into creative energy and it stimulates. A lot of times sadness really comes from isolation, which we do when we're feeling anxious or sad. First thing we do is isolate ourselves, and that just tumbles us into more sadness. So I guess number one is go be with somebody, go hang out with people or call somebody when you're sad, but also make something. Like if there's nobody, say you're in the middle of the night or there's there's no one to call or no one to be with in that moment, try to do something creative. That is a great way to shift energy. Yeah. Like a coloring book. It could be a coloring book. It could be any craft. It could be.
What about a video? I feel like sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes if I'm crying, I'll like take a video of myself crying and then I'll look on it and be like, I look silly.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, great. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so angry. I'm just kidding. That's totally cool. Okay. So angry. If you're angry, I suggested
Yeah,
exercise.
this is a good one.
Obviously, there's tons of things you could do when you're angry, but movement is a really good way to burn off some of that nervous energy or that. Remember, anger, frustration, thinking something's weird, being confused, anxious, nervous, all the same hormone, right? All of those things are stress and they're all the same hormone that's adrenaline. You make meaning around it differently in how you feel, and you have different intensities of how much adrenaline's in your blood, depending on what emotion and the meaning that you're making, but they're all the same. So, really, any negative feeling, any of these things will do. And this list is about getting you in touch with your personal agency. So, getting yourself in touch with what you can do, because when you feel really negative, you think of all the things that you can't do and all the things that you're powerless about. You know,
Yeah.
you could get really focused on that stuff.
Well,
But when you start to do something, anything at all, like the things we're suggesting, it shifts.
yeah, but I was kind of thinking like for the anger one, like that motivates me. So maybe that's more spiteful. But if I'm angry at something, I'll be like, imagine myself like beating it. Or
Oh, yeah. When you're exercising, when you're running, you mean?
yeah, when I'm running, and I've said this about music. I always use music to like get into a headspace. So if I'm like angry and then I have to go for a run, or I want to, I'll be like put on like motivation music and be like, "Oh, I'll show them," or that thing. I mean,
Anyways, yeah. Ugh. Yeah, it's empowering, right? There's a switch in powerless energy to empowering energy, and that's what we're getting at. Okay, so Lily made fun of me because I wrote tired and rest, but really we need permission to rest. I mean, it seems so obvious, but why do we need to tell you that if you're tired, rest, please? It's because so many of us don't rest.
What does rest? Does that mean go to sleep?
Well, it could mean go to sleep. It could mean sit and read a book. It could mean sit down with your feet up or do a yoga pose, like a waterfall pose with your legs up. Um, yeah, it could be sit and talk to somebody in your family, just hang out.
Well, some
Could
people would say like rest. Like, what about TikTok? Like rest. Like, how do you know what's constructive rest? And
Well, I think if you plan it, right? So if you're like, I'm going to sit and scroll right now
oh
on
yeah,
social media because I just want to zone out a little bit and I'm going to do it. And if you limit it and you're like, I'm doing it just to rest, or play a game on your phone or something like
yeah.
that. But if it's like a plan, it's like, I'm going to do this to rest, then you actually sorry, I did the mic too. You actually get something out of it, right? So you actually feel like you were productive because you planned it and then you get the benefits from it. But if you're like, I have to do something, but you get on and you start scrolling when you know you have to do something, it's like in the back of your head, but you're scrolling, you feel terrible about yourself. That's not
Mhm.
helpful.
Yeah.
So sometimes scrolling can be used to rest. Sometimes scrolling is delays something that you really want to do, and then you get mad at yourself, or it makes you feel bad. As we get to later, when I was thinking about, if you feel lazy, get off your screen. If you're feeling lazy, get off your screen and do something.
Mm.
What I like is sometimes you just need a little bit of a task and then you could see the progress and that kicks you off because sometimes we're so unmotivated. We don't want to do anything. But if we could get ourselves to like clean off a counter or some little space, like clean it off and see the cleanness, it seeing that progress actually motivates us for the next small task and the next small task. So if you're feeling lazy, get off your screen, do something, clean a counter off. That's, not that if it's a major job, but if it's like a little job and you clean it off and see it clean, man, or make your bed. If you make your bed and you see your bed made, it just shifts the energy and gives you a little bit for the next little thing. Then you could pick up your clothes or something like that. And then it gives you energy for the next thing and the
Yeah.
next
What if
thing.
it doesn't? Like, what if you get up and you're like, I just got to make my bed, And then you make your bed and you're like, I just want to sit back down on it.
Plop right back down on it. I'm sure it happens. And sometimes you have to adjust your expectations depending on where you're at. Maybe you've been overworking for a really long time and you do need a rest day. You need your body
And
needs
that
to
goes
rest for a
back
whole
to
day.
tired, and then you need the rest.
Yes. Good one. Sometimes you do need to rest and you need to listen to your body. And sometimes the sluggishness is like inertia. So an object in rest stays in rest, an object in motion stays in motion. Sometimes when someone's isolated and they don't have motivation to do stuff, it's hard to do stuff. So I have to, you are all in different areas of like where you're at. So some of you might be in that inertia of rest and you need to get going, you need to move, and some of you are moving way too much and you need to be able to rest. So this is not a universal advice that you have to do one or the other. You have to look at where you're at, and then of course there's everywhere in the middle. But if you are that object at rest and it's really hard to get moving, do one small task. Do one small task. And if that doesn't get you going, and so if you make your bed, you're not going to be like a different person now. If you make your bed, you might have enough energy to maybe pick up your floor a little bit. And then that feels kind of good. And so you go outside and you're like, I'm going to get in the car and go somewhere. I'll just go and get a coffee or something just to get out of the house. Like you have to get moving. And it's hard because that inertia is like this like molasses, like the whole air is molasses and you're trying to get started and it gets easier and easier and it gets thinner and thinner. But those first tasks are really hard. It's like make the bed, clean up a little bit, take a shower, put clothes on. It does shift energy and it might just be a little bit. And that might be all you could do, but it could be huge for you. I don't know. But probably most of the people watching this are doing things and yeah, and that will be enough to get you going a little bit. So if you're anxious, call a friend, take a shower, like Lily said, breathe, do some deep breathing. Those things will help you feel better instantly if you stop and breathe, because you're telling your brain that you're safe. If you were actually in danger, if you needed that adrenaline to save your own life or fight off a foe or something like that, you wouldn't be breathing deeply. So you're actually telling your brain that you're okay and your nervous system is calming down if you breathe deeply. So it's really physiologically important too. And also go for a walk. I mean, you can say go for a walk for like anything negative.
Yeah.
If you have to make a decision, go for a walk. If you are mad at people, go for a walk. If you are angry, go for a walk. If you are tired, go for a walk.
It really does switch your energy.
It really does. I mean, the research shows that walking shifts overall. It shifts your energy, so it's better, equal in some ways to antidepressives and better. I have some walking videos on that, and I'll put the links to them under this. But the research shows that walking is important for longevity, for happiness, for mental health, for physical fitness. We are made to walk. Humans are made to walk long distances. So,
Really?
yeah.
How long?
Well, I mean, we're hunter gatherers, so we walked.
Yeah.
Walked and walked. Okay, if you feel indecisive, take a walk. No, I put clean your room. They're all the same, like I said, because any negative feeling needs a shift in energy. And when you clean something, we always have access to something to clean, unless you're an over cleaner, then everything's already clean. Then go out for a walk or go do something else or make something. See, all of these things get your problem-solving brain to start working. And our brain has evolved for millions of years to solve problems. And so if we're not doing that, it will make up problems to solve. Thus the negativity. And the negativity is, of course, a response to situations and also a response to the context of our mind. So the context of our world, we respond sometimes with negative things if bad things happen to us. That's normal and a regular human response. And right now, our anxiety, our depression, this is a regular human response to our modern world. But also, we create this negative thing in our head with those negative thoughts, and they multiply and multiply. And so we want to get ourselves out of there. Instead of trying to solve these unsolvable problems, we want to give it something to do. So be creative, go do something, take action, clean, um, sing, write a song, clean a counter off, call a friend, be with somebody, help them with their problems. Help your friend with their problems. That is really, really a helpful way to make ourselves feel better instantly. What do you think? What do we
I
miss?
think that this list was like less satisfying because the solutions can go for like any of them than that one picture on my camera roll that was like, if you're angry at the world. I love that thing so much.
I know.
Eat or something, like if you're angry at the world, eat and then you'll feel
Yes.
better. But it is nice to have other options because sometimes things when you said
I forgot, eat something.
when you said I know, but when you said the OC, or would you say OCD, or if you're like an over cleaner, then everything's clean. That kind of opened my eyes. I was like, oh, this list is just like anything works. But if something doesn't work for you, or if something else is going to trigger you, then it is good to have other options and to know that like anything can work for anything
Yeah.
to get you
Really,
out of a
it's
funk.
about feeling powerless and switching that powerlessness to feeling empowered by doing something in your own context that makes you feel good. So if you're feeling insecure, do something creative, make something, do something hard, like make something hard, learn something new, clean something out, organize your closet. Sometimes those are little things that you could go do to get yourself started.
You can delete pictures in your phone. You could delete like 10 pictures
a day.
And then if you delete 10, you're going to see more and you're going to be like, I don't need this picture. I don't need this.
Decluttering is so good for the mind. It's so good for the mind. So if it's digital decluttering or it's physical decluttering hands down is one of the best things to do to calm a stressful body, mind. And that sounds a little bit like bypassing because the context of our world is so bad, and some people live in a context that's so unjust and horrible. And of course, decluttering is not going to like change those things. But for
It's like a good
for
first
many
step.
people, even though you're in these contexts sometimes or have been in the past and maybe not anymore or whatever, there's obviously structural injustice and those things going on. But we need our emotional bandwidth to stay connected to our empowerment so we could fight those things, so we could do something about them. So even people who have privilege need to strengthen their bandwidth so that they could have the bandwidth to be like, we need to do something about this. This is not okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of, these aren't to like solve every problem. It's just to shift energy so that you can
solve your problems.
Yeah.
Or have the strength to handle them or make connections that we need to get through this crazy life. Make connections with people because I'm supposed to be that light goes off after a while. I forgot about that.
That's crazy.
I know, like always like 20 minutes in here. I mean, that happens.
Wow.
Well, this has been great. Okay, so if you're bored, start a project. If you're insecure, turn off your screen.
We got them.
We got them. They're really, I love that E. If you hate the world E, I think you love that so much because the wording of it is so good. It's not like if you're sad, it's like so dumb. It's like you hate everybody in your life, eat something. It does make sense.
I don't know. It's just like
when we're hangry, we do not like people.
It's so good. It's so good.
You have to find that. If she finds it, I'll put it under this video too.
I think I deleted it. I can just find it really easily. I was decluttering.
So here we go. This is how you feel better instantly. you shift your energy from powerlessness to empowerment. And it might be just empowerment in your own little corner of the world, in your own little room or your own little house or your own little place of work or something. But that empowerment grows. It grows. It grows connections. And in connections, you become more empowered.
Yeah.
And you fight injustices and you are kind to people and you bring everyone together and in. And that's what we have to do. You know, we don't want to get lost in some of our stuff because then we're more lonely. We feel worse. We feel terrified and bad about the world. And, you know, that's not how we're supposed to live. We're supposed to live happy and joyous and connected. But of course, bad things do happen. But when we're connected, we could face them so much easier.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We're so glad that you're here. And yeah, anything else to say here before we go?
Have fun shifting your energy. I hope you have a new project on the horizon, like a simple project, like a
Get a project.
coloring book, or like a paint by number.
Hands down, having some kind of project. And if you are anxious, the more engaging the project is, or the more complex the project is, the better that you'll feel, the better that it'll work on shifting you from an anxious or sad state or lonely and isolated out into some kind of enjoyment or connection.
Okay.
So that's going to be really important. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week right here live at 8 p.m. We're going to take the summer off, July and August, but we'll be here in June. And if you want to know a list of our topics, come on over to jodieman.com/live. You could sign up to be coached live, or you could just get updates on the topic of the show, be an insider. And we will see you next Monday at 8.